Hello and welcome to the Dire Gentleman channel. I am Gus Zagarella, and I am joined by my three symbiotes. The man who could most easily find your parents' address, Henry Galley.
Fuck it, I didn't sign off on that.
Masters of animation and simping for the Duke from Resident Evil 8, Meg Tootin.
On my planet, I am also a loser.
And the mean green lord of the spiky desert plants, Charlie Porritt.
Hello, I'm also here.
How y'all doing today, folks? We're gonna talk about Venom, There Will Be Carnage, because there was
And they didn't know what hit him!
When they hit him with the venom.
We bore witness to some carnage in the movie theaters.
You remember that video where we said, Venom, There Will Be Carnage? Like, that's not even the subtitle of the movie. That's gonna be me, Henry, and Charlie when we all meet up to go to the movies together when we're vaxxed. That's literally how it happened.
Hot damn. Just so we're not leading anybody on, amazing fucking film.
Oh, we loved
We're
it.
gonna gush about it for like half hour, so be ready for that.
Switch off if you are one of the idiots who thought it was a bad movie.
If you're a mainstream movie critic, you can fuck off and don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
39% of you reviewers on Rotten Tomatoes can leave. The other 61% can stay. Because after these crazy British mad lads were out destroying their streets like it was some kind of like sports riot, they've come here to the Dire Gentleman channel, and we're going to give our candid, hyped up thoughts on Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage.
Oh man. I've got to say, obviously it's been a while since a lot of us have been to the cinema.
Yeah,
Like probably
this was our first movie since before COVID.
This is the first thing I've seen since we went to go and see The Lighthouse back in February 2020. So it has been over a year and a half.
What perfect bookends to the pandemic, starting with The Lighthouse, capping it off with Venom 2.
the weird, hilarious, powerfully homoerotic movies.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Both are homoerotic. Both are very horny. One of them is the greatest masterpiece I've ever seen, and the other's The Lighthouse. Boom!
I knew you were going to say that, but it's still
You're
not.
not wrong, but also how dare you.
This is some of the most fun I've had in a cinema.
Henry
in a
was
long
sitting there
ass-
just absolutely shitting
Yeah,
himself
like,
laughing.
I just so love Venom as a character. Like, there's just such an innocence and a charm to him. Like, as is probably in the title of this movie, and as I've been repeating ad nauseum since seeing it, this is the gay Vore movie we all wanted. This is all the potential that the first one had, but was kind of ruined by its, like, the first one is still like a fun watch, albeit very flawed by a dodgy structure, messy tone, all that shiz. But this one feels like it so, like, fulfills the promise of the last one's potential.
Exactly, because, like, the first one was, due to editing and due to, like, production problems, it had no right to be as good as it was, and it was saved pretty much by, like, Tom Hardy's performance. But this is like a movie it was a sequel that was made to what that final product ended up being and what everyone saw in it. That first one, for all of its faults, it had a heart, a beating heart. And this is that same heart, like, simultaneously causing all of us to go into, like, palpitations. It is non-stop craziness. And I think that, like, the greatest thing about this movie, the greatest thing it could have done is make Woody Harrelson the other weirdest man to compete with Tom Hardy's strange mannerisms.
The weirdest, sweatiest guy ever versus the other weirdest guy ever.
Yeah, they're not too different after all, because they're both fucking weirdos.
You gotta love how they open Let There Be Carnage with, like, a flashback on Cletus Cassidy's time in
St. Estes.
St. Estes, thank you, Henry, with Shriek, and then the fact that they've dubbed over the younger actor's voice with Woody Harrelson's voice.
Yeah,
It's clearly
It's like this,
so weird.
this, like, grown-ass adult's voice coming out of, like, a teenager.
I've got to
Yeah.
say, wouldn't it have been so much better if him at that age was also played by Woody Harrelson in body?
That would have been fantastic.
Hat on with
Gus,
the propeller.
Gus,
Yeah.
Gus, I'm gonna send you a picture to put up on the screen right now, just so people get what I'm talking about. But do the exact same thing that they did in the first season of Dexter, where they're showing like flashbacks into the past, and it's just the obviously 45 Michael C.
With his
Hall.
ugly Shane Dawson haircut.
Wearing like a fucking coconut head from Ned's Declassified looking
No.
wig. Like,
No.
if they'd done that with Woody Harrelson, because the thing is, even when they're adults, and this is something that like Megan, Charlie, and I kept commenting on, there is such a comical age gap between Woody Harrelson. Is it Naomi Scott?
Naomi Harris.
Naomi Harris. Naomi Harris, and she does a great job.
She's amazing.
Yeah, oh, she's so good.
She's such a fun character.
This made me think like, I'm sorry, Joker and Harley who? What? Who are they?
No, you're so right. They are way better than Joker and Harley because, I mean, again, it seems like an actual healthy relationship, and
They're a lot like Mickey and Mallory from Natural Born Killers.
appropriately, with that also being Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, it's
But,
like Mickey from Natural Born Killers like grows up to become Cletus Cassidy.
I bet that was 100% why Woody Harrelson was casted.
Oh
for
yeah,
this.
for sure.
Probably was actually, because we were talking like, after having seen it, we were talking like, oh, you know, imagine if like Jackie Earle Haley or someone had been Carnage. But you're right, actually, it's probably the association with Woody Harrelson and Natural Born
The
Killers.
thing is, though, in hindsight, while I agree that, like, in isolation, Jackie Earle Haley would make a great Carnage, not for this movie.
No.
Like, ultimately, like, tonally, for this movie, you want Woody Harrelson at, like, his most Guy Fieri, like,
Oh my
running
God,
around
yeah.
with that, like, absurd, like, shirt and jacket, and his,
Hey,
like...
hey. I'll have you know that is a fit, alright? He is dripped up to the max. As a connoisseur of Hawaiian shirts, I have to take my hat off to him and say, man's got fucking drip.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. You know that he would never wear any of those things in any color other than red. It has to be all red.
He's
all the time.
has to be
He's
red.
the Cheryl Blossom of the Marvel universe.
He is.
Everything
Yeah.
has to be red.
I love when he jumps into the fucking convertible and has this childish moment of glee where he's like,
It's a red. It's
Yeah.
a red one. Yeah. No, that's what I was just gonna say. Is that like you want to talk about movie villains? This reminds me of like 80s and 90s movies, like like Highlander, where the villains would just commit a bunch of crimes, or like one of the Hellraiser movies where they just rampage through the streets. He does an armed robbery where he like jumps up onto like the counter.
Stomps a dude's head.
Stomps a dude, and like he steals the car. He commits so much arson, so much murder, does a big jailbreak. Like this to me felt like a return to really fun, but also really cruel and like competent villains in movies.
Yeah.
The thing is, at the end of the day, when you have, and this is a nice segue back to the joint stars of the show, Venom and Eddie, when you have a lethal protector like
Sounds
Venom,
a bit 80s, doesn't
yeah,
it?
Oh, it's so 80s.
who straight up
It's so
like
80s.
eats people and kills them when he defeats them. You need to make your villain someone who isn't at all like sympathetic, which is why it's great that even though they clearly have like some explanation of okay, here's why he's like this, at the end of the day, they make him so much of like a great like gleeful shithead that okay. Massive spoilers. We're gonna spoil the whole movie.
Get out of
3,
here if you
2,
don't want
1,
spoilers.
fuck
Get off my lawn. Get out of my fucking room.
The fact that they have a wonderful and like gratuitous villain death is the fact that Venom eats them both separately.
Yeah, he
Cletus
eats the
and
symbiote.
Carnage.
He eats the symbiote, and then he Carnage tries to pull a
I just
villain
wanted your
redemption.
friendship.
I just wanted your friendship. And Venom looks at him for a minute, and then we get the one fuck in this PG-13 rated film. Venom says, "Fuck this guy,"
Yeah.
and bites his head off.
Oh man, it's
And it's fucking
It's
awesome.
so good.
yes.
It's a much better F-bomb than the first movie had.
What even
Yeah.
was the one in the first movie?
It was like, it's when Venom and Eddie are going to go fight Riot on the rocket. He's just like, oh, he's got shit you wouldn't believe. And then Eddie, in Venom's head, just goes, fuck it, let's go save the world,
I can't
guess.
even remember, because that's such a generic line.
It's so like overshadowed by like Riot like breaking out of the lab and Eddie going, "Oh sweet Jesus!"
Yeah.
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 God.
Sweet Jesus.
And by the way, they really did up the ante in every regard in this film. It isn't just obviously the fact that they really focused on the relationship, and it is a relationship, like
Yeah.
textually,
Yeah.
like a romantic relationship.
They have a breakup. They have a tragic breakup scene where like Venom throws
Yes!
all his stuff out.
Get
crashes
out!
the
Get
car.
out!
This
Yeah.
is my house!
This is my house.
Yeah. But like they really upped the ante in every regard, because despite the whole he's got shit you wouldn't believe about Riot in the first one, it's still ultimately, you know, a rather anticlimactic fight where a lot of the time it's difficult to even tell who is like doing what at any given time. It's like the kind of like slightly dodgy CG of the T'Challa versus Killmonger
yeah.
when they're both suited up
Yeah.
type thing. But in this, they genuinely, like, really went into overdrive with just making Carnage seem like fucking dope and like powerful as hell. Like, obviously all of his weapons on his back, but the fact that he can just make like the extent and like all the tendrils and shit of his symbiote like big enough to basically consume an entire church
Yeah.
during that final fight is awesome. The visuals are so
cool.
good.
The scene where he's like suspending the car up above the prison with all the tentacles.
Oh, that was great.
I think that one of the cool things about like Francis, who is Shriek, and Carnage / Cletus Cassidy's relationship is that her powers are his weakness.
Yeah.
And I think that's always like a really cool dynamic in like superhero things.
Which is great as well, because it creates their fatal flaw, which is the tension between Carnage, as in specifically the symbiote, and her.
Yeah.
And because in this Cletus does genuinely love Shriek, that prevents he and Carnage from having a symbiotic relationship, which is the key to their downfall.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to get thematic on that for a second because, like Meg said, the dynamic between Cletus Cassidy and Shriek is a loving one, and then Carnage goes into the equation and kind of ruins it and leads to their defeat. When you think about, like, where Carnage came from, it also says a lot about Eddie Brock that, like, it's almost like Cletus Cassidy was corrupted by Eddie Brock more so than, like, his own life. You know, like, Eddie Brock gives him the keys to his cell, essentially, because Eddie is this guy who, despite, you know, Cletus Cassidy, he finds, like, shelter in love. He finds shelter in, like, his weird verses and stuff. Eddie Brock is a guy who, I think this is true within the movie, he doesn't know how to love. He's never really loved, maybe not until, like, Venom. I think that, like, that corruption, that sickness, takes the form of Carnage. In a way, it just shows that Cletus Cassidy would have been better off having never met Eddie Brock. He still would have been a serial killer, he still would have been a murderer, but, you know, I just think it's a little bit cool that in this case, this movie's all about consequences, and the hero's actions legitimately do not create every reason why this guy would have a bad motivation, but give him the key to do more harm than he possibly ever could have, allowing that to happen. You know, not, like, being responsible for that. And that's where the film goes.
And to echo what we said earlier, if you're one of the professional critics that didn't like this movie, fuck you. There's some good thematic analysis.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, it is also two very strange boys with goopy, oozy goop powers fighting each other in churches and, like, in prisons. And Carnage goes in, makes a tornado at one point, and he picks all the blood
He
in.
becomes the Tasmanian devil!
He goes full fucking, yeah.
He goes, "Wow, wow."
Does Crash Bandicoot also do that, or am I dreaming that? You seem
You're
like the
dreaming
kind of
that.
guy who'd know that, Gus.
That's his main thing. Crash Bandicoot
Yeah.
spins. All that was needed for that scene is Carnage spinning, and then the warden like getting hit and getting like shrunk into the background because he was launched super far away.
God. And then he has his like kind of Vore limerick outside about how
Yeah.
the warden tasted like ham.
He has a little song that he sings.
That's not a limerick, guys. That's a Johnny Cash song.
That's a Johnny Cash.
My
that's a Johnny
man!
Cash song.
Oh man, Charlie knows. San Quentin. It's the literal prison. It's
Yeah.
a song Johnny Cash
Yeah.
wrote
He's in
about
San
it.
About the
Quentin.
prison, yeah.
I love the detail that in this movie's universe, they bring the death penalty back just for Cletus Kasady.
He's that much of a dick.
It's that bad.
Yeah.
Bringing it back for this one man with his terrible wig.
God.
This
Yeah.
man's crimes against hair.
The thing is, ironically, despite the fact that this movie is called Let There Be Carnage, and I think Carnage / Cletus provides some really like fun scenes and set pieces, and the battles are really cool. Like, neither of these movies are about their villains.
No.
You know, like.
They're about Venom.
Those are right.
Because the thing, what we have here is just the fact that, like, I feel like there's been a lot of, like, superhero team-up movies, but I don't think, for my money, I have ever seen a superhero movie with a more compelling central dynamic as Eddie and Venom.
No.
Because they're effectively a superhero team who is also one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's so interesting because, like, you look at any of the bickering that the Avengers have, because at the end of the day, that's what it is, bickering. They yell at each other, and then when the fight scenes break out, they just do the, pre-rendered CG battle, because...
The second unit fights.
Yeah, because there's never
Yeah.
going to be any real, like, oh, will the Avengers work as a team? Well, they're billed as a team. They're already rendered as a team. So no matter what happens in the scripted segments of these movies, they're going to be a team regardless. But this Venom, like, movie with like, Eddie, there's legitimate tension. Like, can they do it? Will they actually work together? Even like, that final confrontation when, like, Venom is like, at the end of the day, I just don't want to die. Like, I want to preserve myself. Even though they agreed to go there and save Anne. Like,
I love the part where Venom, like, goes back in and goes,
It's a
nah,
red
it's
one.
a red one. You're fucked,
Yeah.
basically.
exactly.
They really do sell the fact that Venom is a loser on his planet.
Yeah.
Which is so good. Like,
Yeah.
that isn't just a one-off joke. Like, any time he's had to face another symbiote throughout this thing, his immediate reaction has always been, oh, fuck, I can't do this. Like, it takes
Yeah.
genuine pep talks from Eddie every time to get him to do it. Which is, again, another example of why they're necessary to each other. Like, Venom has the raw strength. Eddie gives him the confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Eddie is always the one, like you said in the first one with that line I'd forgotten, while Venom has the power, Eddie is the one with the more, I guess, like, brave and heroic heart, which makes sense, he was like an intrepid reporter who'd put his ass on the line for the story, so he's always the one who makes the tough decisions, and that's why together they have everything. They have, like, the brawn and the, like, brains and heart. Well, they have the brawn and the heart. They don't really have the brains, but they don't need the brains between the
They don't
brawn
need
and
the
heart.
brains.
Well, they eat the brains.
Yeah, they eat the brains.
They eat the brains. Well, that's the thing. Like, Eddie's journey over this movie is like, it's reflected pretty on the nose with the whole Don Quixote statue at the end. But like, his whole like journey in this film is embracing the sort of weirdness and the inherent sort of having to do morally grey things like biting bad guys' heads off. That being a part of being with Venom brings with it.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
And I like that, the movie gave us time to see the fallout of the breakup, that they're away from each other for an amount of time. I mean, Eddie just suffers on his own. He's just having a bad time because everything bad is happening to him. Like, oh, the serial killer broke out. He might have your, like, symbiote baby in him and is coming to kill you, and you don't have Venom. Meanwhile, Venom gets a really fun subplot where, like, yeah, he's kind of dying because he's, like, not eating and he's still observing Eddie's rules, but he's also trying to be himself. And it's so funny because, like, there's a really inspiring moment where he's all like, like, I'm out and I'm proud, and it's all the gay subtext
Yeah.
becomes, like, text
Can I-
in that moment. No, go
it's
off,
so-
King.
It's so funny to me when, like, people, when that episode of Loki came out where Loki makes some vague reference to being bisexual, or, like, Valkyrie, like, poses suggestively with a gun in a way that sort of, like, gestures in the direction of pegging. People are like, oh, this is so queer. This is such a queer moment. This is so important for Marvel movies. No, as Russell T. Davies, king
No.
that he is, said, who has
King.
done, a man who has
King.
done so much for queer representation in television in particular in the past 20 years. He's done so much, Bob and Rose, Captain Jack Harkness, and like all of Torchwood, It's a Sin. He's done a lot of good for
So much of Doctor
Yeah,
Who.
he's done a lot of good for queer representation in film and television. As he said, of like the Marvel way of doing things, it's a craven gesture and it's pathetic. Because over here, Sony, the Chad Sony to the Virgin Disney, is making a movie where Venom possesses a number of like very flamboyantly dressed like kind of leather daddy guys to get into an underground rave. He is covered in rainbow glow sticks and he puts his fist up in the air at one point and yells, "I am out of the Eddie closet."
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, Venom and Eddie say that they love each other.
While sitting on a beach.
While sitting on a
feeling
beach
their toes
together.
in
Sitting
the
on a
sand.
beach, watching the sunset together.
This is like
It's the gay Vore hero.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
the
a gay
gay Vore
film.
hero.
Mad gay. It's mad
and the
gay,
fact that
and
like
it's
other
brilliant.
studios are like just kind of like here's the director playing a gay man in a support group for 10 seconds.
Oh god.
That we need to do better because Venom is a gay film. Everyone else needs to get on their level.
And the fact that, like, it explicitly shows, like, the thing with Anne isn't happening. And her saying at the end, like, take care of him, Venom.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so fucking clear. Like, anyone who could like, look at this and say, well, I just don't... Well, no, here's the thing. People aren't looking at it and saying, well, I just don't see it, because the wonderful creators behind this, director Andy Serkis, G, fucking Gollum, King of My Heart, Kelly Marcel, the writer, and of course, Tom Hardy, off the top rope, doing the fucking story with Kelly Marcel, they made it unavoidable. Like, it's as text as they can possibly get in a movie this big, and as a result, the people who would normally be like, oh, well, you're just clutching at straws, are instead like, oh, this movie fucking sucks, they made it gay.
The only straw it's clutching is the one that it's putting into your brain and sucking out your brain, you homophobic piece of shit.
Yeah.
No, Venom would starve on half of these people.
Oh yeah. you would.
Yeah, the chickens would have larger brains, but we respect our chickens.
Sonny
Yeah,
and Cher
Sonny
are
and Cher are
best
best
friends.
Sonny
friends.
and Cher are best friends.
I think
Yeah.
that was the moment where I was like, this isn't just going to be a good movie, this is going to be a great movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
again, Venom, despite being this, like, just big, like, flesh-eating monster, has such a sweetness to him.
His
Like, after the
expressions.
breakup, all of his encouragement for Eddie and, like, trying to make him breakfast while badly singing along to How Do You Like Your Eggs in the Morning,
Oh, so
and fetching
good.
his mail.
And when he gives him the mail and he's like, "This for you." That was so
This for you.
cute. Mail wife.
Also, when you look at, like, the previous movie, where, like, Eddie, like, when Venom was out, all the expressions were, like, scary and mean. They actually realized who the character was in this and had some time with the CG, and he smiles. He does, like, big toothy grins that are so goofy
Yeah.
and weird throughout this whole film. Like, when he, like, stops the purse snatcher, like, he smiles like, she didn't know she needed our help.
Yeah, and they changed the voice a little bit as well. It's less menacing and more like, it's clearly alien and clearly like really well reflects his design, but it's not quite as like bassy and try-hard.
I wanted to say just like one last thing on the whole like Eddie and Venom
Queer
as
themes.
a relationship. Yeah, queer themes. The scene, first of all, I'm glad that they kept like Anne with Dan and in the movie too.
And they make an effort to make Dan really
Yeah.
likable as well. Like you can see, you can
helps.
clearly see that he's a better match for Anne than Eddie was.
That's what I was gonna say, is that Anne and Dan have like a really good dynamic. Shriek and Cletus have like a really like good dynamic. Carnage is essentially this like, I want to kill my dad and also fuck up anything that I love, like fuck up any relationship
He's the
that I love.
third wheel.
It's a little dangerous. Well, he's the third wheel, and he represents all of like Eddie's worst qualities. Like he is sins
Yeah.
of the father personified. But that's getting away from what I wanted to say. I think that in that first scene where Anne's got the wedding ring and she's telling Eddie to be honest, to say that it's kind of over and that she's like going to be happy with Dan, when she realizes that he still has Venom, that scene reads as like, well, she knows that Eddie's moved on too. Maybe he doesn't know it yet, but he's with Venom now. And they have this, thing together. She can see it on his face. She knows it's happening, and he won't outwardly admit it, but that's where it's going to go. And by the end of the movie, sure enough, they get closure and they're in that relationship. And then Eddie and Venom go off and live a life together where they care about each other.
Yeah. It's
so
fantastic.
beautiful.
It's lovely. Like, I don't know, it's just... I just had the biggest, stupidest smile on my face the entire time I was watching this movie.
We were losing our shit at so many points
Oh
throughout
my
this
God,
movie.
yes.
Just, dying
a really
laughing.
specific part of our experience as well in regards to the jokes, because I think this is worth saying. I don't know what trailers you got before this, Gus, but we got the trailer for Eternals. I'm so glad we got that trailer, because I think it's a perfect example of reminding people like us why we love movies like Venom, because they're so not movies like Eternal. All of the fucking jokes in that trailer were so cringeworthy and painful. If you've seen it, you know what I mean.
Telegraphed a mile away.
The bit with the fucking table, you know what's gonna fucking happen.
Referential.
Oh, what's not helping is that attitude of yours. Some shit like that.
Yeah.
What's never saved the world is your sarcasm.
Yeah, I feel so bad for that actor because he's really funny as Paperboy in Atlanta.
And he's probably
really
one of the best parts of Godzilla vs.
he's really
Kong.
funny in Godzilla vs. Kong too, but he's great as Paperboy.
He's just gonna be doomed as shit funny side character.
Yeah.
But hey, at the end of the day, you gotta get that Paperboy.
Paperboy.
God's
You
sake.
bringing up Eternals makes me want to it makes me a little bit want to address what happens in the post-credit scene of this movie, because I think
Do we have to?
no.
We have to. Can we just pretend that it didn't happen?
here's the thing. All I'm going to say is it is probably the most terrifying thing for Eddie and Venom. They don't know what they're getting into. They are dropped into this crazy weird Disney lore, but at the same time, I love the headcanon that, the MCU is not ready for the existence of Eddie Brock and Venom. Everything is going to change from here on out. We can dream.
Yeah.
We can dream.
They're gonna be if they show up in any of the in any of the Disney Spider-Man movies, Eddie and Venom are gonna be heterosexual.
Yeah, there'll be both of them in
I
different
hope
rooms
not.
having sex with two different women.
They'll be they're gonna have they're gonna introduce some female love interest.
They won't do that. They won't fucking do that.
Yeah.
You know what?
No, they won't have time because they'll be fighting Spider-Man and some shit, because that's what Sony wants to happen.
You know why that won't happen? Because I don't think Disney legitimately has the balls to do romantic arcs with its characters, and they wouldn't do it with Venom. So off in his own little world, he can be what he is, authentic.
Out and proud.
I think it's also just gonna be so funny to see but we can't have him eat people. Get fucked. You have done this. You have merged these universes. Deal with the consequences.
I gotta say, so refreshing to finally see a superhero movie from the writers of Less is More. Because it has the exact same energy. Queer as hell, main characters that eat people, goofy, ridiculous humor. Link in the fucking description if you all know what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, this is definitely all of our jam. And I'm just so excited, no matter where the MCU goes, because, it's all gonna be irrelevant and underwhelming. Endgame was maybe where this cultural, touchstone should have ended, and kind of did, because it was the Endgame. At the end of the day, we can all say that this time, a movie was made by passionate people who loved the story, who loved the characters, and it was made for the audience it was for. And what more can we get out of, a movie that is just catering to us,
Yeah, baby, yeah.
Yeah, freedom, baby, yeah!